David sat in his home office, staring at the glow of his computer screen. But his mind was elsewhere. For the past 3 months, something had shifted in his marriage to Jennifer. They'd been together for 7 years, married for 5, and he thought he knew every facet of her personality. But lately, she'd become a stranger. It started subtly. Jennifer, a marketing executive at a downtown firm, had always been social. But now, her phone had become an extension of her hand. She'd giggle at messages during dinner, her fingers flying across the screen with an urgency that never existed when texting him. When he'd glance over, she'd tilt the phone away, offering a quick smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Just work stuff," she'd say, or "Rebecca from the gym sent me a funny meme." But David wasn't stupid. He recognized the signs. The way she'd shower and change into nicer clothes before running errands. How she'd started wearing the perfume he'd bought her for their anniversary only on days when she claimed to be meeting this mysterious new friend named Alex. Alex, the name that had infiltrated their marriage like a slow poison. "He's just a friend from the marketing conference," Jennifer had explained when David finally asked. "We click professionally. He's giving me advice on the campaign I'm working on." David had nodded, wanting to believe her. Jennifer had never given him reason to doubt her before. But professional advice didn't explain the late-night texts, the secretive phone calls she'd take on the balcony, or the way she'd started pulling away from his touch. Their intimate life had deteriorated completely. Where they once made love several times a week, now Jennifer always had an excuse: headaches, exhaustion, stress from work. When he tried to initiate, she'd kiss his forehead like he was a child and turn away. The rejection stung more each time. One Thursday evening, as they sat together watching television, or rather, as Jennifer scrolled through her phone while the TV played to an audience of one, David made a decision. He reached over and gently took her hand. "Jen, can we talk?" She looked up, slightly annoyed at the interruption. "About what?" "About us. I feel like you're somewhere else lately. Like I'm losing you." Jennifer's expression softened for a moment, and he saw a flicker of the woman he'd married. "David, you're not losing me. I've just been stressed with this new campaign. Alex has been really helpful, and I guess I've been leaning on that support. But it's nothing you need to worry about." "Then, why does it feel like everything's changed?" She squeezed his hand, but it felt mechanical. "Nothing's changed. I love you. You know that." But her phone buzzed at that exact moment, and her eyes darted to the screen. She didn't pull her hand away, but David felt the shift in her attention. She was physically present, but emotionally miles away. That night, as Jennifer slept beside him, or pretended to, David stared at the ceiling, his gut twisting with dread. He wanted to trust her, but trust was becoming harder to hold on to with each passing day. The following Tuesday, Jennifer announced she'd be attending a late dinner meeting with clients. David noticed she'd worn her black dress, the one that hugged her curves perfectly, the one she usually reserved for special occasion with him. "I'll be home by 10, she said, kissing his cheek quickly before grabbing her purse. David watched her leave, then sat in the oppressive silence of their home. He'd never been the jealous type, never the husband who checked phones or followed his wife. But something was screaming at him that this wasn't innocent anymore. Around 9, as he cleaned up the kitchen, he heard a buzz from the living room. Jennifer's iPad sat on the coffee table. She'd forgotten to take it. It was connected to her phone, sharing notifications. David approached it like it might explode. He knew he was at a crossroads. Looking at it would be a violation of privacy, of trust. But wasn't her secrecy already a violation? The screen lit up with a notification. Voice message from Alex Heavy Black Heart. His heart stopped. A heart emoji. He stared at it, and before he could talk himself out of it, he pressed play. Alex's voice filled the room. Deep, smooth, confident. Hey beautiful, can't stop thinking about this afternoon. The way you looked at me when we were alone in your office. Christ, Jen, you drive me crazy. I know we said we'd keep this professional, but I'm done pretending. When I touched your thigh under the table, I could feel you trembling. You want this as much as I do. Call me when you can talk privately. I need to hear your voice. And plan when I can taste those lips again. David's legs gave out. He collapsed onto the couch, the room spinning around him. The message continued with more explicit details. Intimate moments they'd already shared. Plans for future encounters. Alex's frustration with having to share Jennifer with her oblivious husband. That last phrase cut the deepest. He played the message 3 more times, each word cementing the reality he'd been denying. Jennifer wasn't just emotionally distant. She was having an affair. The late nights, the new lingerie he'd found in her drawer, the way she'd flinch when he touched her as if his hands were contaminated compared to Alex's. David's shock slowly crystallized into something else. Not just pain, but clarity. He looked around their home, the life they'd built together, the photos on the walls of their wedding day, vacations, moments when she'd looked at him the way she apparently now looked at Alex. His phone buzzed. Jennifer. Meeting running late. Don't wait up. He stared at the message, then at the iPad still showing Alex's contact information. For the first time in their marriage, David felt something he'd never experienced with Jennifer. Cold, calculated, anger. He wasn't going to confront her tonight. He wasn't going to cry or beg or ask why he wasn't enough. No. He was going to be strategic. If Jennifer could plan secret rendezvous, he could plan something too. David opened his laptop and began researching divorce lawyers, asset protection. But more importantly, he started planning something else. In 2 weeks, they were supposed to host Jennifer's company's annual summer barbecue at their home. Her colleagues, her boss, mutual friends, and of course, Alex would be there. Jennifer wanted to play games. He'd give her a game she'd never forget. The next morning, David acted perfectly normal. When Jennifer came home at midnight with disheveled hair and smudged lipstick she'd hastily tried to fix, he pretended to be asleep. When she showered for 20 minutes, washing away evidence, he remained still. Over breakfast, he smiled at her across the table. How was the dinner meeting? Long, Jennifer said, not meeting his eyes. But productive. That's good. Hey, we're still on for the company barbecue in 2 weeks, right? Her head snapped up, a flicker of panic crossing her face before she masked it. Oh, right. Yes, of course. Great. I want everything to be perfect. It's important for your career. He reached across and squeezed her hand, watching her squirm slightly. I'll handle all the planning. You just focus on your work and your projects. Jennifer relaxed slightly. Thank you. That would be really helpful. Over the following days, David became a model husband. He brought Jennifer breakfast in bed, complimented her outfits, suggested she take time for herself. He never mentioned Alex, never questioned the late nights or the increasing frequency of her meetings. Meanwhile, he was meticulous in his planning. He consulted with a divorce attorney, documenting everything. The voice message he'd saved to his own device. Screenshots of suspicious texts he'd seen over her shoulder. Credit card statements showing hotel charges on days she'd claimed to be at the office. He also hired a private investigator who within 3 days confirmed what David already knew. Photos arrived. Jennifer and Alex at boutique hotels, intimate lunches, his hand on her lower back as they entered his apartment. One photo particularly gutted him. Jennifer laughing in a way she hadn't laughed with David in months, her hand on Alex's chest, looking at him with undisguised desire. But David channeled his pain into purpose. He contacted a tech-savvy friend who helped him set up a plan for the barbecue. He ordered a high-quality portable speaker system, claiming it was for music. He personally invited everyone on Jennifer's company roster, emphasizing how much she'd appreciate their attendance. "You're being so supportive," Jennifer commented one evening, actually showing him affection for the first time in weeks. She initiated a kiss that almost became more, but David gently pulled back. "I'm tired tonight, honey. Big day tomorrow." The irony wasn't lost on him. Now he was the one rejecting her advances. Jennifer looked confused, even hurt, but nodded. The night before the barbecue, David couldn't sleep. He kept rehearsing his plan, questioning if he was going too far. But then he'd remember Alex's voice. "Your oblivious husband." He'd remember Jennifer's lies, her betrayal, the way she'd systematically dismantled their marriage while he desperately tried to hold it together. No, he wasn't going too far. He was simply revealing the truth. His phone buzzed with a message from the investigator. "Got what you needed. Audio recording from their meeting yesterday. You sure you want this?" David's thumb hovered over the response. This was it. The point of no return. Send it. Saturday afternoon arrived with perfect weather. Sunny, warm, with a gentle breeze. Jennifer had spent the morning getting ready, wearing a summer dress that David had once loved seeing her in. Now it just reminded him of all the lies. "You look beautiful," he said, and meant it. Even betrayal couldn't erase 7 years of loving her. "Thank you," she replied, seeming nervous. "Is everything ready?" "Everything's perfect," David assured her, and it was. The backyard looked immaculate, the food was catered, drinks were chilled, and his special entertainment was queued and ready. Guests began arriving around 2. Colleagues from Jennifer's marketing firm, neighbors, friends from their couple circle. David played the perfect host, greeting everyone warmly, making sure glasses stayed full and conversations flowed. At 3 o'clock, Alex arrived. David watched Jennifer's face when she saw him. Her cheeks flushed, her breathing quickened slightly. Alex was conventionally handsome, tall, fit, with the kind of easy confidence that probably made him successful in both business and seduction. He brought wine and shook David's hand firmly. "David, thanks for having me. Jennifer's told me so much about you." "I'm sure she has," David replied with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "She's mentioned you too, Alex, right? The colleague who's been so helpful with her projects?" "Happy to help however I can," Alex said smoothly, his eyes already seeking Jennifer across the yard. David excused himself and watched from the kitchen window as Jennifer and Alex found a quiet corner, their body language screaming intimacy. At one point, Alex's hand briefly touched her hip, just a fleeting contact that would look innocent to anyone not knowing the truth. But David knew. He saw everything now. By 4:30, most guests had arrived. Jennifer's boss, Martin, had cornered David with conversation about golf, which David endured while keeping one eye on the clock. At 5, as the party hit its peak energy, David excused himself and moved to the outdoor speaker system. He tapped a glass, the sound cutting through the conversations. "Can I have everyone's attention, please?" The yard quieted, faces turning toward him expectantly. Jennifer looked confused, but smiled encouragingly. Alex stood near her, drink in hand, unsuspecting. Thank you all for coming today. David began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. Jennifer and I are so grateful for your friendship and support. We've been married for 5 wonderful years, and I wanted to take this moment to celebrate that bond. Jennifer's smile widened, though David saw confusion in her eyes. This wasn't planned. Marriage is built on trust, he continued, on honesty, on being faithful to the promises we make. And I think it's important that we all understand what those values mean. He pulled out his phone, connecting it to the speaker system. I recently discovered something that really put our marriage into perspective. I'd like to share it with all of you. Jennifer's face went pale. David, what are you? But he'd already pressed play. Alex's voice boomed through the speakers, intimate and unmistakable. Hey beautiful, can't stop thinking about this afternoon. The yard fell into stunned silence as the message played in its entirety. Jennifer's gasp was audible even over the recording. Guests stood frozen, drinks halfway to lips, conversations dying mid-sentence. As the explicit details continued, Alex describing their encounters, their plans, his contempt for Jennifer's oblivious husband. The shock rippled through the crowd like a physical force. David watched Jennifer's face cycle through emotions: confusion, recognition, horror, and finally devastation. She reached for Alex instinctively, but he had stepped back, his face red, eyes darting for an escape route that didn't exist. When the message ended, David calmly disconnected his phone. The silence was deafening. David. Jennifer's voice cracked, tears already streaming down her face. I'm not finished, he said quietly. I also have testimony from hotel staff, credit card statements, and photographs. For 3 months, while I tried to save our marriage, while I wondered what I'd done wrong, you were building a relationship with Alex. You let me believe I was losing my mind, that my concerns were paranoia. Jennifer's boss had gone rigid, his expression dark as he looked between Jennifer and Alex. Other colleagues were whispering, phones already emerging to text absent friends about the drama unfolding. You made me feel inadequate, David continued, his voice stronger now. You pulled away from my touch while giving yourself to him. You lied every single day, looked me in the eye, and made me doubt myself. Please, Jennifer sobbed, moving toward him. Can we talk about this privately? Please, David, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Now you want privacy. David's laugh was bitter. You had no problem violating our privacy with him. Why should your humiliation be any different? Alex finally spoke, his voice weak. Man, I didn't know she was. I mean, she said you two were practically separated. Another lie, David said, looking at Alex with disgust. We were sleeping in the same bed every night. I was trying to fix what I thought was broken, not knowing she'd already shattered it. Jennifer collapsed into a chair, her hands covering her face as she wept. Several guests were quietly leaving, while others remained, unable to look away from the carnage. Martin stepped forward, his face granite. Jennifer, Alex, this is deeply inappropriate. We'll be discussing this on Monday. For now, I think you both should leave. This is my home, Jennifer choked out. Actually, David said, pulling out papers from his pocket. As of yesterday, I filed for divorce. These are temporary restraining orders requiring you to collect your things and stay elsewhere while we work through the legal process. I've documented everything. The affair, the financial impropriety of using company time and resources for your relationship, all of it. He handed her the papers, which she took with trembling hands. I loved you, David said softly, finally allowing emotion to crack his voice. I would have done anything to make you happy. All you had to do was be honest. If you'd fallen out of love with me, if you'd wanted something different, we could have ended this with dignity. Instead, you chose lies and betrayal. Jennifer looked up at him, mascara running down her cheeks. I never meant to hurt you. It just happened. I was confused, and Alex made me feel. I don't care, David interrupted. Your reasons don't matter anymore. The damage is done. He turned to the remaining guests. I apologize for ruining the party, but I think everyone should know who they're working with, who they're trusting. Integrity matters, and Jennifer and Alex have none. As Jennifer gathered her purse with shaking hands, Alex already having fled to his car, she made one final attempt. David, please. 7 years. Doesn't that mean anything? He looked at her, really looked at her, seeing both the woman he'd loved and the stranger she'd become. It meant everything to me. That's why this hurts so much. But you threw it away the moment you let him touch you. Jennifer left, shoulders shaking with sobs, while neighbors and colleagues watched in stunned silence. Martin approached David, clasping his shoulder. I'm sorry you're going through this. For what it's worth, you handled it with more grace than most men would. As the last guests filtered out, offering sympathetic words and support, David stood alone in his backyard. The decorations still hung cheerfully. Food sat half-eaten on tables, but the life he'd known was over. He pulled out his phone and saw messages already flooding in. Friends offering couches, his brother offering to fly in, his attorney confirming the papers had been served successfully. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. Jennifer lost her job after an internal investigation revealed she'd been conducting her affair during work hours, using company resources. Alex transferred to a different city, his reputation in tatters. David moved to a smaller place downtown, started therapy, and slowly began rebuilding. He dated occasionally, though trust came hard. But he'd learned something valuable. He deserved honesty, loyalty, respect. He'd never again doubt his worth or accept breadcrumbs of affection while someone gave themselves to another. One evening, his phone buzzed with a message from Jennifer. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to know. Losing you was the biggest mistake of my life. Alex was nothing. You were everything. I'm sorry. David read it twice, then deleted it without responding. Some apologies come too late, after too much damage. He'd given her his best years, his complete trust, his unwavering love. She'd taken it all and crushed it for a thrill, for excitement, for someone who'd disappeared the moment consequences arrived. He opened his laptop and began writing, not for revenge or vindication, but to process and heal. His story wasn't unique, but it was his. And while Jennifer had written the betrayal, David was writing the next chapter alone. A chapter where his worth wasn't determined by someone else's inability to see it. A chapter where he chose himself first. A chapter where the truth, however painful, had finally set him free. The end.